We are back on the Jason Mackey Weekly Chat. I'm Adam Bittner, Assistant Sports Editor for Multimedia at the Post-Gazette, joined by Jason Mackey here on our Pirates YouTube channel. This is the third segment of our show, but it's the first one going on the Pirates YouTube channel today. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Jason, we're going to be talking about spring training. You're heading down. Usually you're like a permanent resident for a couple of months down there, but now in your new role as a columnist, you're only going for a week or so. So we're going to talk about what's exciting you. We're going to talk about some early stats from spring training. What's real? What's a mirage? We're also going to get Jason's thoughts on some possible extensions that may or may not be worked out between now and opening day. Before we do, just want to thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Greenwald Roofing Company. Hey, Pittsburgh, when you think of great roofs, you think of great Greenwald Roofing Company. With over 20 years of experience, Greenwald knows your roof is your home's first line of defense from rain, wind, snow, and ice. That's why Greenwald Roofing's standard for perfection is so important. You can trust that their team of experienced installers will treat your property like it's their own. When it comes to roof replacements, Greenwald Roofing is Pittsburgh's only choice. Visit greenwaldroofing.com today or call 412-314-8882 to schedule your free estimate. PA contractor number 36262. Okay, Jason, I think I set it up. You're going to Bradenton. What are you most excited to see up close?
Man, so yeah. So, the weather, all of it. I could say the food, the restaurants, the white sandy beaches, all this stuff. I love that area, man. And anybody who watches this knows my affinity for it. I'm going to be insufferably happy down there. But I want to talk baseball because there's a lot of cool storylines that we've seen. I actually have a column about this coming out this weekend on some stuff that I've observed from afar that I think is going to be better understood up close. And some of those things, I don't know if this is in any particular order, Adam, but Henry Davis is right up there for me. Everything we've read about what he's done has been great. It's been excellent seeing it on screen. I want to talk to him. I want to talk to people around him. I want to learn more about how Henry Davis has handled himself because I don't think it's physical. He has all the physical gifts in the world. I think with him, it's relaxing a little bit. It's trusting himself. It's not searching for, if he has a bad game, a bad week, trying to change something, sort of sticking to his principles and whatnot. That's one of them. Jack Sawinski is another who's had a really good spring. He's run more. His approach at the plate has been good. I like the aggressiveness with which Jack has been swinging. You could see that yesterday. I was watching the game. I was going for a bike ride in my basement here, and he smokes the ball 108 in the first inning. That's exactly what you want to see out of Jack Sawinski. So I want to see more of that, and I think it's such an integral part of their lineup, having him productive in left field, having Tommy Pham productive in left field. I could go on, by the way, but those are a few things. Brian Hayes, seeing him run around live in the flesh. I mean, so far so good, right? The back routine and how he's feeling. He said he's never felt better. I know a lot of players say that this time of year. I tend to believe it with Hayes. What struck me the most? Honestly, seeing him on TV. He was being interviewed by Hannah Mears the way they do the walk-off interviews and past the outfield on their way to the clubhouse. He was smiling. He was not head down, just kind of, not mopey, but he has never had the best body language, and he looks happy. So I'm excited to talk to him. I'm excited to see Paul Skeens playing around with some pitches, Jared Jones playing around with some pitches. I mean, it's spring training. It's the time for that stuff. I've never seen Andrew Heaney, of course, live. I think that's going to be an intriguing one. At least I haven't seen him with the Pirates. They've got some bullpen guys they need to work in there. David Bednar getting back to who he is. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, man. I could blab and blab. I'm also excited to eat some seafood at Starfish, not going to lie.
Yeah, that should be good. I want to dig in a little bit more on some of these guys that we've already talked about a little bit and talk about their spring training stats. I think we should start from the point of spring training stats basically mean nothing unless they mean something. And sometimes they do. And these guys hit the cover off the ball down in camp and they find a way to get on the roster. So you mentioned Henry Davis first. He's got entering today 978 OPS. So he's backing up the greatest shape of his life with at least, a little bit of production at the plate so far. Is that for real for you? I don't know if he's going to have a 978 OPS during the regular season, but is it the kind of thing where it's trending in the right direction and you feel good about him in a way you didn't at the end of last season.
I'll take it. If he wants to put up a 978 OPS, the Pirates will not turn him down. Yeah, it is. It's trending in a way that I think I can believe in, others can believe in. Of all the things that we're probably going to talk about, and do I think this is a spring training mirage? It's as believable as it gets for me, Adam. I don't totally understand what they're going to do, how you're going to get him reps, because I'm not going to sit Joey Bart. I'm not going to play Henry Davis in the outfield. Probably winds up as a DH. He's never played first before. He hasn't been working over there. So, I mean, I'd kind of cross that off. But this is such a baseball adage for me, man. If you hit, you play. Find him a spot. Get him a glove. Maybe you DH him. I don't know. I don't know what that means for Andrew McCutchen. They're both right-handed hitters. It's an equation that doesn't really work. But you know what? Henry Davis maturing and turning into something, turning into a 1-1 pick, that is a problem. If I'm the Pirates, I would be thrilled to have and figure it out. You make it work. They did it before with him in the outfield. It wasn't great. But yeah, I believe that. There's some other stuff that I don't know where it lands, like DJ Stewart, Derek Hall, Matt Gorski. There's some guys who have had some good springs, but G1 Bay has even had a good spring. It's just I don't see where that lands. But yeah, I feel pretty good about where Henry's at right now.
I want you to pull at the Matt Gorski thread a little bit, because I know a lot of people are asking about him. He's in the comments all the time on this YouTube channel. 3 homers, 10 RBIs, and 12 at-bats. I'm not going to ask it fake or for real, but I mean, is there any level where you're considering him as that he's at least forced his way into getting a chance, especially given the Spencer Horwitz situation, and maybe you give him a look for the first couple of weeks, and if he does well, maybe he holds, maybe he continues to get at bats, maybe he slides into a DH role, and if he doesn't, then it's easy to kind of send him back when Spencer Horwitz is healthy.
No, probably not. And that's not a mark against Matt Gorski. He's just not on the 40. I don't know if I see this continuing for Matt Gorski, honestly. I mean, what I would do would be send him to Indianapolis, and he's made a good impression. And if they need somebody, he's going to be on my short list. But I don't know if I've seen enough to manipulate my 40-man roster at this point and do that. Maybe the rest of spring changes that. I don't know. But, and that's the same way I think about Hall and Stewart and these other guys. Like, yeah, they might do some interesting things. They might force my hand in a way. I just don't know if I'm going to expose another player that I might like to waivers because of that move, when I don't really have to make that move. I could put somebody else in that spot, but again, it's March 6th, right? Like March 27th, I think, is their opening day, something like that. I mean, that is an eternity in baseball terms. So I understand why people are excited about Matt Gorski, and I'm not trying to throw water on any of this, but I am trying to speak from some recent experience in that, like, Diego Castillo was such a thing for a while. Kanan Smith-Njigba was such a thing for a while. Kevin Newman was a huge thing for a while. And then we also wanted to bury Tyler Anderson and Jose Quintana because they stunk in spring. So I loop back to your original point. Spring training stats don't really matter unless they kind of do, which they kind of do with Henry.
Well, I think there's a thirst. I think the difference between those situations you described and Matt Gorski is he's mashing the ball over the fence, and there's such a, I think, thirst for power here from the fan base that they'll take it wherever they can get it, and they're looking at him as a possible source of power. And until he proves otherwise, I get it. But I also agree with the points that you made. A couple other names I wanted to bring up. Ke'Bryan Hayes, you mentioned him early on. He's looking good physically, but still with a 583 OPS. Is that just a matter of getting back in the swing of things in your mind?
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care about the OPS. I mean, Hayes is going to be there if he's healthy at third base on opening day. I don't care about his spring numbers. I care about what he looks like, how he's moving around. We've seen this from Hayes before, right? Like, he needs to elevate the ball. When he's elevating the ball, when he's pulling the ball, generally that means good things. If he's synced up on the fastball, and to do that, he generally needs to be not, riddled with pain, which he's not. So I don't have a lot of concern, honestly, about Ke'Bryan Hayes if you tell me he has a clean bill of health. If you can guarantee me that Ke'Bryan Hayes is going to be healthy for 162 games, some people will think I'm insane by saying this. I don't care. I also don't I don't worry about his level of production. I think he's going to give you enough with the glove. He's going to give you a lot with the glove, frankly, and is going to do enough at the plate that like we're going to be talking about a 4 or 5 WAR player at the end of the day. Again, if you guarantee me a clean bill of health.
Or if it's even like, okay, maybe he gets injured at some point in the season and misses a few weeks, but as long as it's not this chronic back situation where it's impacting him all the time, even when he's technically healthy enough to play, that I think that's the big key is get the back behind you. If you pull a hamstring or something, they're out for a few weeks. I can live with that. Jason, another name that is off to a decent start down there is Endy Rodriguez, kind of in that same interesting position with Joey Bart, Henry Davis, all in that big mix of what do you do with them. What's your interpretation of the Endy Rodriguez situation with the start he's off to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised, Adam, that they haven't tried Endy at first. And to my knowledge, they haven't. Just because he would be a left-handed hitting complement to Jared Triolo. When he's on the 40, and he would be an easy move. You could carry him. It gives you positional flexibility. You could have Joey Bart, and then you could figure out what you want to do between Endy and Henry behind the plate. And, it's probably going to go to Henry because Endy has another position. Anyway, I mean, I worry about – I guess I'm kind of talking in circles here, but here's what I worry about in that scenario too. Like as much as I like Endy Rodriguez, as much as I like Henry Davis, I don't know if it's the best thing for both of those guys to be on the roster because I don't think they're getting enough reps, enough at bats. So at this point, I'd probably take Henry Davis over Endy Rodriguez based on what I've seen in spring. I'd probably leave Endy in AAA. Again, there's an eternity left in spring, so that could change. If Henry cools off, if Endy heats up, I'm probably going to keep one of those guys on my opening day roster. So I'll be curious to see where it goes. I mean, I like Endy a lot. I think he has a lot of value, even handling a pitching staff. I think he's probably the better defensive catcher of the two. I'm just surprised they haven't tried him at first because it gives him a little more flexibility.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch play out. Jason, topic they talked about on the Pirates mailbag earlier today that I also wanted to get your thoughts on was the question of extensions. The Pirates have done a big extension each of the last 3 springs, either on opening day in the case of Ke'Bryan Hayes or during spring training like they did last year with Mitch Keller. Do you see any significant deals coming, A, and B, is that a possible explanation for why we haven't seen them do much in free agency and to add to this roster is because maybe they're looking toward a deal with an Oneil Cruz or someone else? It's
not my understanding that that's why they've been inactive in free agency or less than active. They haven't spent a lot of money. I'm not legitimizing it. Anyway, no, I don't see anything here, Adam. I don't. I mean, I want them to extend Oneil. I'd want them to extend Paul. I don't think either is likely. If we want to start with Oneil, it's never been my understanding that they got anywhere close. Oneil has also changed agents a few times. I don't think anybody really knows what his value is right now as a center fielder. If I'm Oneil, and especially if I'm counseling Oneil on what to do, I would not sign anything because I think there's the possibility that he's going to be a gigantic star. If he can stay healthy, if he goes 30-30, 40-40, something like that, like I would not want to, do anything that limits value. I would just sort of, hey, I'm gonna hit, I'm gonna produce. Like if you want to knock my socks off with a deal, fine, let's talk. But we're also talking about the Pirates; they're not going to do that. The same thing with Paul Skeens. What it would take if I'm Paul Skeens to sign and give up years of free agency, where I can probably, I hate to say this, pursue a better situation with a greater certainty of winning than what I would have with the Pirates. Like I don't think the Pirates are going to be willing to offer that. So as we sit here right now, Adam, I wish it wasn't the case, but I think their 3-year run of extensions probably ends this year.
You mentioned Oneil. I have a question about, do you really think he's going to hit 30-30, 40-40, that kind of potential? Because I wonder if it's a somewhat – I look at him and I see something – and it's different positions. They're not the same player, but there were similar expectations in terms of power for Josh Bell, and obviously he had that one great May where he made it to the home run derby, probably one of the best – couple months I've seen from a Pirate in my lifetime. But he was not – Josh Bell is not a superstar. He's a good first baseman. And I look back and wonder, wouldn't you like to have Josh Bell in the building still? Wouldn't you like to still have that as a building block of like a good player where you're not having that question? But because they sent him out, they never followed through with that guy all the way through his career. Do you worry about maybe a similar situation unfolding with Oneil Cruz where the promise always exceeds what the production is for the most part?
I think that's possible. I also think it's possible he goes for 30-30. I mean, I don't like the idea of comparing Oneil Cruz to Josh Bell. I think they're different players. I think they have different physical tools. I don't look at this and think, oh, I wish Josh Bell was here. Like, I don't. Just you saying that, it made me look back at some of his numbers recently. We're talking about a 725 OPS in 2 teams last year. The year before, 744. Like, would it help the Pirates? Yes. Have they committed crimes by not having it here? No. I think Oneil has the possibility of being more than that, just because of he's physically able to do things that neither Josh Bell nor 99% of Major League Baseball players are able to do. He's just such a freak. And I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. So, yeah, I mean, I think 30-30 is possible. I think 40-40 is possible. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit on the original question, but I don't see those guys as the same players. And I see Oneil Cruz, based on what he's shown me, improvement. We've talked about him hitting left-handers. He's gotten better with it. We talked about him hitting breaking stuff. He's gotten better with it. I think his value goes up a lot, not being a shortstop. I think outfield is the best position for him. None of it guarantees him succeeding, but I know the Pirates haven't had somebody with this combination of power and speed probably since Kutch, and I think it's probably fair to say that at least in the tools department, Oneil has more than Kutch ever did.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a better athlete.
Just with tools. Yeah. I'm not trying to bury Kutch.
Well, he's certainly a better athlete than Josh Bell. And I don't know if I was trying to make that comparison of, like, are they similar players? I think you start from, going back to what we were saying about Matt Gorski, the power. Oneil Cruz is probably the best power prospect that you've had since Josh Bell. But he also hasn't quite lived up to that yet. And so the question is, does he have a career that more resembles Josh Bell's arc, or does he have, just from a power perspective, or does he have one that more resembles, some of these 30-30, 40-40 superstar type of guys? Let me get us out of here on this, Jason. How much is this season going to determine how Oneil Cruz is seen for the purposes of extension, career arc, all this stuff we're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot. But at the same time, Adam, like, let's say he's injured. Let's say he even underperforms. Let's say he doesn't go 30-30. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a diminished confidence that he's going to be that type of player. He might get hit with the label of, oh, he's a defensive liability, or he's not real bright, or he's whatever. I'm trying to think of whatever, silly criticism has been out there of Oneil. I shouldn't say silly. I mean, some of it's legitimate. He hasn't been good enough defensively. That's fair. But what's to stop that from changing next year? What's to stop that from changing in 2 years? I don't think, again, I don't think an extension, at least as far as what I've been told, I could certainly be wrong. I haven't been in spring training for the past month. That's certainly detrimental to learning that sort of stuff. That an extension is all that likely. I hope it changes. I hope the kid becomes a star, and I think he has things in him that will allow him to do that. And if you ask me, do I think his power numbers represent more Josh Bell or more like elite power numbers around Major League Baseball? I would bet with the latter. I'd bet that it's going to be above Josh Bell, that he's going to give the Pirates more than that.
Well, that'll be exciting to watch play out if it doesn't happen. Jason, thanks for chatting with me this week. Always great to get your thoughts on the Pirates and everything else. We will be back next week. Jason, you'll be back Saturday, though. I believe you have Colby Armstrong on.
Yep, Colby Armstrong this week. Recorded that right before this one. Really good pod. Check this out. I was excited about this. Colby, obviously not baseball, but Penguins legend. We talked about the 2008 trade, the Marian Hossa and Pascal Dupuis trade that Armdog told me it was actually the Colby Armstrong trade. But we talked about like the awkwardness around the trade deadline, how he got into broadcasting, some funny Sid stories. A lot of fun. So check that out.
Make sure you subscribe to the both this channel, the Pirates channel, and Post-Gazette Sports on YouTube to get all of our content. And also like this video if you enjoyed us. Help us out in the YouTube algorithm. We always appreciate that. And we will be back to talk to you next week.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.